Hello and welcome to the Making It podcast for episode 68. Good to be back for another episode. If you're listening on YouTube, welcome. If you're listening on Spotify, welcome. You just can't see me waving. I hope you've all had a great week. Dan, it's good to have you back. How have you been, mate?
Yeah, awesome, bro. I'm excited for the new week. New week, new opportunities. I've just been chilling in the living room with my housemate Isaac. We were actually chatting about this podcast, which I'll get into later. But no, feeling good, feeling refreshed. I had a good sleep last night. I was definitely not feeling refreshed yesterday morning after a Saturday night out and a lot of football in the morning. So I was very, very achy in all parts of my body. But feeling good, feeling happy about the new week. And I've got a few things to be excited for. Doing my UEFA C course at the end of the week, going to the student races. It's my last session today, coaching for the year, which I only just realised was my last one today because it's not the last session, but I can't do the other ones. And then I'm going to my auntie's on Saturday for my brother's 18th celebration. So there's a few things to be excited for, brother. I'm excited for our goals. If you want to tell the listener about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we did actually start recording another podcast, but it didn't just sound very good when we were talking about it. But me and Dan have decided that we want to push ourselves a little bit more as mates. I think we're always kind of subconsciously giving each other goals indirectly. We thought, well, why not make it a proper thing? So basically, at the start of every podcast now, we're going to be saying three things that we want each other to do at the start of the week. And then they've got until the next Monday. So we do it Monday to Monday. Obviously, you guys will hear about it on the Tuesday. You've got a week to do it. There's no pressure if you don't do it. But it's basically just about trying to push each other to do things. We see each other from a sort of different perspective to how you see yourself. So when we set a goal about content, I see it from a viewer's perspective as opposed to Dan seeing it from a creator's perspective, so on and so forth. It consists of one personal thing, two work-related things. So for Dan this week, and I've got them on my phone, I've got everything wrote up on my notes. For Dan, make someone's day, new form of content for your social media, and make a move to increase something to do with a new project that we're doing. And then for Dan, to me, reach out to someone who inspired me, make an action to get someone on the podcast as a guest for Making It Moments and get my own Making It Moments done as well. And then gain 11 followers for my social media page. So that is the aim we've got for this week. And of course, we're just going to keep pushing each other. So just a bit about that. That's going to be a little bit of a feature on the start of the podcast. But Dan, it's been another big week, bro. Obviously, I've only got a week left now until I go home. I've got 10 days till I land, 9 days till I leave. So me and Georgia, who we'll be flying home with and who I currently live with, have been having a lot of big chats, a lot of nights out, and it's been a pretty tiring week. Lots happening and falling asleep with my clothes on, and that happened a couple of times actually this week. I did a run to the Opera House yesterday, which was really, really fun. And as part of my goals last week, which I'm pleased to say we both completed and we did a good job of, one of them was to run any distance. And I just so happened to ask Georgia and her family, hey, where can I run a 5K? And they said, if you run to the Opera House, it's probably around 6K. So I ran a 6.2K to the Opera House. Do you know what? I actually felt really good. I feel like with my running, I feel like the distance is just not a problem anymore. So I would love to push myself to get that 10K. Do not give me that. Don't give me that next week because just remember I'm going to be jet lagged for the rest of next week. So please don't give me next week. But yeah, feeling good. I think I'm in that nice part where I'm enjoying the last moments here. But I'm really ready to be home and seeing friends and family. So yeah, bro, I'm looking forward to seeing you again, man. It's been a long time, bro. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a very long time, but it almost feels like it doesn't. And I had a very nice time with my friend Yusuf, the Friday just passed. Yusuf's someone who I met in September at uni. He's actually always been on my course, but I only met him in September. And he's become someone who I already feel like I've known for a very long time. We're very well connected. We're both on the same coaching journey. I've got lots of love for Yusuf, and he's an inspiring friend. And when I saw him, I was telling him about how, like, when I next see you, I've got a funny feeling it's almost going to not feel like I've not seen you for a while, because
Yeah.
we've still been fortunate to do this podcast every week. We speak a lot. We're basically in each other's lives in a way we know what we're up to most of the time. And I think it's gonna be a weird feeling, but I honestly feel like it's gonna feel like I still saw you yesterday. But I'm excited to know what that moment's like. And me and Yusuf were also having a few good conversations, went on a nice walk after a nice coffee, and I was speaking about a few things. And one thing was, which is interesting relating to a podcast, is actually taking your time when you're speaking a bit more. I think a lot of the time in life we want to be quick, we want to get what we're thinking out of our head, and we can be quite nervous and we can speak quite quickly. I know I'm a bit like that sometimes. Sometimes on the podcast I'm thinking, oh, have I been speaking for too long, etc. But just taking your time to speak a little bit more is something I'm taking on board a bit. But also just spending time with good people like Yusuf. And I had some good time with Scarlett yesterday. And it's interesting because we had a good conversation, and it made me realise, and I know we speak about this on the podcast every week, but it's something you've always got to remind yourself is, if you're feeling something, it's of importance because you feel it. And for the first time this year, Scarlett's had a good group of mates, and I've had to balance my relationship life with that now, which is great. That's how it should be. That's how it always should have been. Great for her. But I've also had to. I've learned my own journey of integrating myself with her friends and getting to know them, and not feeling as awkward when I'm around them, because that's a very normal thing to feel. Not feeling like I'm intruding on her experiences. And we had a very good conversation about that. And she says she's felt the same with my friends, the same way everyone would. So just pushing people to think about things in their life. But something I wanted to speak about on the episode this week, Jamie, is turning up. I think often we think a lot about the doing, and we think about how we could be pushing on for more, and we think about how we could be pushing ourselves even further, and just every intricate detail about being better. But sometimes I think it's important just to realize just turning up is important, and just being there in that moment, just being a face people recognize and know the name of is an important thing. So I just wanted to know what that meant to you.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that I personally don't think that turning up is always good enough, but I think it's great. Now, that's a weird thing to say, but like, what I mean by that is that, like, turning up is great in terms of you making that first step, but is it good enough for what you want in the grand scheme of things? And I would think that for me as a person, I do believe that just showing up and doing that first thing is really important. Like with the run yesterday, Dan, just doing it is important. Is it good enough in terms of what I want to achieve? Just showing up, maybe not putting in the most effort you can? No, but it's still a very important step. And I think that's where you can bridge the kind of two ideas of, hey, I want more from something, and also, but I just need to show up. There's a nice bridge in there. And I think that sometimes we can be really harsh on ourselves and demand stuff a little bit too quickly and think that immediately, rather than just starting, no, we have to start here. You don't. I don't think there's any chart you need to start on. It's just like, hey, just show up. And then after that, it's for you to decide what you want from it. Do you want to hold yourself to a high standard and achieve? Or do you want to stay at that level? That's up to you. We're all different people. And I think that's like, it's something I carry with me into work. So if I'm doing something new, just start. Just be a noob, like be a newbie to the thing that you're doing. Be malleable, be completely open to something new. Just be a sponge. And then after that, it's how hard do you want to work to go to the next level of it? So the first part is so important. And I think that maybe we forget, Dan, just how important it is to just turn up. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to be good at something straight away. And do you know what that's born out of, Dan?
What?
Do you know what it's born out of? That need to be so good at something straight away?
Insecurity?
Ego. Because who are you trying to prove something to? You know? You don't just want to be good at something and be the best at something straight away for yourself. You wanted to do it for your personality, your character, what other people think of you. And I think it's really important, and it goes so under the radar, and it goes so underrated when people do just turn up consistently. That's building your foundation, and then after that, you build the rest from there. So your foundation is turning up, and your walls and everything else is what you build. So, yeah, very important, bro. And where would we be without it? That's what I'm going to ask you. Where would you be if you didn't just turn up and instead you did put all that additional pressure on yourself?
In terms of always thinking about more.
Always. In terms of like, you're not even worried about just starting. You're already thinking about, I want to be really good at this now.
Yeah, I think you wouldn't even had started because you're thinking so much about the starting.
Procrastination.
And that's the destination, and life is the journey, and that's why we always talk about the making it journey. And it's the reason why I brought it up is because just being there is great. You never know a piece of knowledge that you're going to get. I think the biggest example for me is when I'm coaching. Just volunteering to go to sessions. Being observing other coaches, just being there. I'm learning. It doesn't take an incredible amount of effort just to observe, but you can gain so much from it. And it's interesting what the additional part you said to it, and I think that links to what Matthew McConaughey said about being less impressed and more involved. Once you are turning up, what are you doing when you are turning up to actually be the best sponge you can possibly be and gain all that knowledge? But I always feel like you never know what can happen. What are you giggling at, mate?
Sorry, I just choked on my water, bro.
Nearly dying over here over water. What does your T-shirt say? Have a cup of what?
Have a cup of concrete and harden the fuck up.
There you go.
Sorry, I'll edit this out, bro. I'll edit this out. Sorry, carry on.
Sound, bro. I thought you were having a laughing fit or something.
No, that went down the wrong hole. Sorry, bro.
It's all right. You ready? Well, sometimes when you're just turning up, you never know. Someone might say something to you, and there might be an opportunity that just arises from that. Like they need an extra coach for something, or you can be an extra hand just because you were there. And all of a sudden, that links you into something. Someone comes down to the session to observe themselves, and then you met someone new. It's just turning up is such a big thing. I think sometimes we think so much about the more, but sometimes it's good to just be there. And that makes me bring up a conversation I was just having with my housemate Isaac, and him and Luke, both my housemates. They watch the podcast when they're in the living room chilling, and they said they were watching an episode the other week, and we were talking about something. You couldn't quite pinpoint what it was, but I think just the fact we have conversations a lot about improvements, and we talk a lot about philosophical things and being better versions of ourselves. He came from the standpoint of sometimes he can find that overwhelming. Sometimes he thinks maybe in a position where sometimes you can think too much about constantly improving. And I agree. I think that's true. I think I said to him, we come from a standpoint of we express our journeys and people can interpret that in their own way, exactly how he did. But I think that's just, and we came to the conclusion, that's just where you have that balance in life. Sometimes, yes, it's good to be quite serious about life, take yourself seriously, really be striving for improvements. But on the other flip side, it's good to take life a bit less seriously sometimes, not always be striving to do something, just do nothing sometimes. And so I kind of wanted to get your verdict on that. Can thinking too much about ourselves and what we want to do with our lives and our purpose become overwhelming?
Well, yeah, because this whole idea of a purpose is just something that's been created by society, right? Like our purpose was based on instinct, like throughout human history. You hunt, you gather, you survive. That's your purpose in life. You procreate and then you die. That's it. Obviously, life is more complex now, and there's all these additional complexities that were made by humans who thought it was a good idea. And, through that has come all these different challenges that we now give ourselves. But at the end of the day, they are still placed on us by ourselves. And I think that when it comes to your purpose, I do think we think a little bit too much and we do just forget to live sometimes. I think one thing that I would say has changed a lot about me in the last year is that I used to be very much focused on, okay, this is a year out, and then when I come home, it's straight back into work. I want to be this by 20. And it's just like, throwing my entire life at a job right now, I don't know if that will solve all my problems or make me truly happy. But doing what I'm doing now does make me pretty happy. So why not carry on that on for a little bit? Traveling and exploring the world and seeing different things from a different perspective. Like why not try and grow as a human being before I start thinking about my job? Because, I think that the best thing for me, bro, is to try and mature as much as I can before I truly decide what I want as an adult. Because how are you supposed to, as a human, a young person, determine what you want from your adult life without fully becoming an adult? How is your child self or your young adult self determining what your adult self does? How does that make sense? We're all different though, and we all have different ideas. Some of us know exactly what we want to do, some of us don't. But in my view, I'm like, I want to be an adult deciding what I want for my adulthood. And in order to grow and mature, I feel like this is the best thing for me to do. And when it comes to procrastinating and worrying about our purpose, I do think that is a lot of the time placed by external influence, people worried about what other people think of what they're trying to do. Hey, like, he's got it made up. His career's going really well. I've not got that. But it's just like, you got to live your own life. You really have got to live your own life. And I think all the time we worry so much about what other people are doing. And we put so much energy into what other people are achieving and what we're not. And in reality, it's just like, no, just be happy for what they're achieving. But remember that we're all on a different timeline. That's just it. There's nothing wrong with what you're achieving now and the time frame that you're doing it in. You were just put in a different life, in a different challenge to someone, very different circumstances. Like I said in The Onion, bro, that podcast, just as I came back from Australia the first time, you're on a level playing field with no one but yourself. So remember that. It's you versus you all the time, always. And I think that, if you are someone that procrastinates a fair bit, and you're not sure what you want in your life, and, just do things that make you happy. I think that through following your passion and through exploring other passions and through exploring new people, new networking, through just exploring every different section of life, you'll find what you want to do. And I honestly think that I've learned so much in this last year, and I think I've matured so much in the last year, that my life at home will just feel different because I take things in a different way, And I will say something, bro. I've come to enjoy the directness of people more. And so I'm going to flip a question on to you. As people, are we becoming more or less direct? From a leadership standpoint, maybe in jobs and other things, and also just as friends. Do we tend to kind of go around the country roads with things and maybe avoid conflict? Is that something that you think that is coming with the new generation of people?
I think so to some extent, but I also think I think not to some extent. For example, I think I think we're being more direct about our emotions, about our feelings. I think if you were to go back years and years ago, would people be as open about their emotions and their mental health and their struggles? Not as much. I think you can. I think we've all kind of witnessed that. So I think we're becoming more direct in that sense. But then I think yes, I think there is that side of it as well where we are becoming less direct because a lot of our communications now aren't face to face. They're on a phone, they're on text, they're through a call. Some people break up with their relationships through a phone. That's crazy. So I think in that sense, yes, we are becoming less direct, and I also think yes, there is that area of I can be like that, avoiding conflict. I think maybe because it happens less these days because there's less opportunity for it too because we're like I say again communicating on phones a lot where a lot of people actually conflict on their phones as opposed to in person. Yes, there is some less conflict in person, but I think both sides have their positives and have their negatives. But I think individually, even I thought to myself when I was going to bed last night, I was thinking, there's some friends who I'm really close to. I go on holidays with, and I share good times with. But do I actually get to know them on a deeper level, or is a lot of our friendship just having fun all the time? And I think same again. There's positive and negatives of both, but I want to have a bit more of a balance with that with some of my friends. I think I enjoy the side of the fact that we don't have as much of a serious relationship in terms of a lot of the times we can have are having fun and just doing cool, exciting stuff. But then I think, we all have another layer to us, and I want to make sure I'm getting to know that and I'm being more direct to my friends about
Mm.
that and making sure that maybe certain things that, and there's always a way you go about it. We spoke about that last week, but certain things maybe I could flag a little bit more as a friend and say, hey, bro, like, is this really good for you? How are you actually getting on with this? Are you okay? I don't want this to be brushed under the carpet. And we always laugh about it. So I think there's having, same again, a balance of both. But I think we can be more direct in some instances, but in other instances, I think it's good to maybe take a step back. But what do you think, bro? Because I feel like you were coming from a perspective of you do think we could be a bit more direct.
I do, bro. I do. I feel like in the past week I've experienced a lot of indirect actions um, from people that I would expect directness from. And I'm not going to mention in what context that is, but it's frustrating for me. I feel like I've enjoyed since being out here people just being a little bit more honest with me. You know, and maybe that has come from the sales thing, bro. I think I've actually realized how much of what I've felt has come from sales. My issues with attachment have pretty much not vanished, but they've gone a lot more than what they were before. And I think that it just comes from the fact that they were always straightforward. This is how it is. This is how it is. You gone, done. Okay. Meeting people out here, not knowing their intentions, and people skirt around something, and they don't want to tell you exactly how they feel because of how they're scared that they're going to upset you. I think we need to be a bit less like that. Always take into account someone's feelings, and context is really important. If someone's going through some real shit, you don't need to be, saying something that's going to make it even worse for them. But at the same time, if you are going to put someone's health, mental health, feelings first, remember that what you're potentially saying to them is doing them a favor in the long run. And I do just enjoy people just being honest with me more. Tell me what you want me to do. If you're in a leadership perspective, tell me what you want from me. Tell me what I should and shouldn't expect. And I think that I've been way more direct with people in what I want. I do want this. I don't want this. This is what I would like from our friendship or relationship, or I don't want that from our friendship or relationship. It's as simple as that. And I just think that as people, we can do more of a service to our friends and our family and people that we meet if we are just more direct and honest with them. Because this kind of trend of indirectness and being worried about offending someone or it's gone too far, I think. But it was just a very random but little subtopic that I was kind of interested in, Dan, because, again, this week kind of got me thinking, but everyone operates differently as well. I know that some people don't like to be that direct, and I do get it. But I think it's mad when you look back, because I actually just called someone before this, and we were speaking, and they were like, you've changed a lot since we last spoke. And I've not spoken to them since October, maybe. But I'm like, I didn't feel like I had. And then we're talking, and I'm like, geez, you've got all these things that have happened, and all these things have changed. You've lived in 3 different places. Deck's gone, old friends, new friends, and you're like, whoa. And all throughout that period, bro, that's all happened in a year. And now you're going to go home and live life in a similar way, but with a different grasp on things. And I think that's really important. So I'm excited I'm just excited to sit there and have a coffee with you, Brian. And I think that seeing each other in person will really grasp that growth.
100%. What are you excited for this week? That's something I wanted to ask you this week. What are you excited to do?
Oh, so much on this week. We're doing a big walk tomorrow. So we're walking from a place called Vaucluse, which is a really, really nice part of Sydney, just up north of Bondi. And we're walking to Rose Bay. So it's a 2-hour walk along all the nice beaches and beautiful shorelines. I've got a haircut in the morning. So my last ever haircut with my barber. So shout out Thomas. He's a real one. He's a good lad. Going to go and get my haircut. Go see him tomorrow. Going and seeing a friend after that. And then obviously my last shift at work on Thursday or Friday. So I got drinks after work. I just want one closing shift where we're all drinking together again and listening to a music. Going out clubbing with all my workmates doesn't really bother me that much, but just having one close where we're listening to like good George Harrison or something like that. Old school tunes after having a few beers. Saturday I've got Deftones as well, which is massive for me because I've wanted to see Deftones for so long. I got into Deftones when I was living with Rebecca, and she definitely pushed me towards listening to that kind of music with how she was. So I'm looking forward to Deftones because it means something to me. Music is a very underrated thing, and I have a genuinely very emotional connection to music. And for some people, music is just a throwaway thing. But for me, it is genuinely like a massively emotional thing. And Deftones has really helped me. Deftones, Alice in Chains, all these bands, like they've just helped me through something because they've made my feelings kind of emanate into one big box of things. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like the music makes me feel good even when I'm feeling a certain way. And then I've got, George's leaving work as well because we're on the same flight home. So we're going to have leaving drinks after Deftones and work on Saturday. So it's going to be a big night. Sunday, seeing friends, and then obviously, Monday, Tuesday, and then before you know it, it's Wednesday morning, you're packing your bags and you're out of there. So it's pretty crazy, Dan. It's pretty nuts. But it's a big week. It's going to be an expensive week. But it's all about just having a bit of fun. And, when you only have one more week left in a place like Australia, you gotta make the most of it, bro. So I can imagine the next time we speak, I'll be a little bit more upset and a bit kind of just a bit more reminiscent on what has happened this year. But as far as I'm concerned, bro, I'm going to be throwing everything I've got this week and making every minute count, bro.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. I've got to share. On Saturday we played our cup for our 7-a-side and we won our first game 1-0. We won the semi-finals 2-0, and then in the final we were 1-0 down, and then we scored Chet on his last ever game for Come Time With Me, 1-1 just before half time. And then it was half time, second half starts 1-1. and the ball lands in the box and it pings off my foot and it hits my hand, and the ref gave a handball, and then we're
No.
2-1 down. And then I think I was battling in my mind a little bit with that. I was all right, but then I was just a bit tired, and I did this crappy clearance, and then they came and attacked us and scored. After that, I subbed myself off. I was like, I'm damaging the team here, get me off. But it was, I think, even though we didn't win the final, like, it was just a special memory. And you talking about, your last week in Australia and making the most of things and throwing everything at your week. I really enjoyed that on Saturday, and just playing seven-a-side football the whole time I've been at uni has been a really exciting thing. And I'm excited this week to coach tonight, my last one for the season. I'm excited to do my coaching course. I'm excited to see my family at the weekend. I'm excited for the races, and I think it's good to ask yourself what you're excited for this week, because me and Isaac were sat in there watching a podcast, and they were talking about just how rare it is to be alive. I feel like sometimes we do forget that, how
Yeah.
rare it is to actually just be alive. So, what are we excited for this week? What do we want to make the most of? Let's go smash it.
Let's go smash it. And at the end of the day, bro, wherever you are in the world and whatever your situation is, I don't imagine that every person listening to this is, coaching or doing the coaching course, or, coming back from Australia or doing whatever. But it doesn't matter. What are you looking forward to this week? And it could be something really small, but even a coffee with a friend is so important. And I just want to say as well, a big thank you to everyone that's been, this isn't an official goodbye yet, but to everyone that's been there with me throughout this experience. You, the listener, you guys that have been super patient with us when we have the odd episode that's come out late or anything. But I want to say as well down to you, bro. I'm super grateful for you, because we've just kept making this happen. We've done so many episodes since coming out here, and we've managed to keep it going. And the standard's high, and it's only going to get higher, over the summer, because me and Dan are planning some really big things for the podcast. So we just want to make it better for you. So if you can do us all a favor, like it, follow it, subscribe to it, do your thing. It all just is a massive help to us. So Making It Podcast, episode 68, Making It Poddy on all our social media, makingitpoddy@gmail.com. Email us, get in touch, and we'll see you next Tuesday as always, 10 a.m. UK time. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
Take it easy.
See you guys.
See you guys. Thanks for listening.